remembering to do that. And so we want to thank the Illinois Community College Board for supporting the Forum for Excellence, our partners, the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, and Heather and I are with the Southern Illinois Professional Development Center, part of your Adult Education Professional Development Network. We thank our presenters, Dan Deasy, Mary Jarjor, and Dr. Arlene Santos George. So let's go ahead and get started. As I said, I'm Sarah and Heather is here as well. So Dan's going to start us off today, and let me get to his slide and let him mute myself because you're here to listen to Dan.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to share our experience developing and implementing a Model 2 IET program. We've developed a few of these based on need and opportunity, but I'm going to focus on one in particular, which we ran as a pilot recently, and talk about some of the challenges and benefits and successes from this program. So I'm going to talk about English language acquisition entrepreneurship, Model 2 IET. So if you hit the next slide. For those of you that haven't developed one of these or are thinking about it, there are Model 1 for, at least for us, and a lot of the challenges that I'm going to talk about may be universal, but it also may be on where adult education fits within your overall hierarchy of your institution, and what kind of available bandwidth that institution has to run some of the credit Model 1 partnership. So just talking about my experience and some of the challenges that we've had with our own institution, sometimes a credit option, a certificate program is not available. So there may be a community need or an identified need, and we just don't have a credit certificate program available at the college. Collaboration, for anyone who's ever tried to collaborate, it's a wonderful experience at times. It's also very challenging at times. So collaboration with our academic partners on that level, more macro level, and collaboration on the instructional level, sometimes that's not there. So you have to look for an alternative if you've identified a community need to provide the service and a certificate in a particular area. Scheduling, of course, if you're trying to partner with an academic division, there's we've experienced quite a bit of scheduling issues, flexibility issues. Timeline is also critical. We all live and die in a one-year cycle through the grants. So depending on the institution, you could try to develop a program and it may take a semester, and it also may take 3 years. So for us, when we want to develop and launch, we're looking at that kind of that timeline that we live in, which sometimes our academic partners and institution do not follow that particular trajectory of development and launching a course. And sometimes external partners not only bring some value that internal partners cannot bring to the table, but sometimes they're easier to work with. So we've had some experiences, some wonderful experiences with external partners outside of the college, as well as internal. So those are some of the challenges that we've faced, and which led us to, in addition to the needs that we've identified within our community, that led us to develop and kind of embrace the Model 2 IET. Next slide. Just a background for entrepreneurship, how we came up with entrepreneurship and decided to focus on it. There's a whole host of data that shows that immigrants bring so much to the entrepreneurial experience within the United States. 80%, the data bears out that 80% of immigrants are more likely to start a business than those that are born here. Total number of jobs created by immigrant entrepreneurial efforts is much higher than those native born. So you can go, I'm not going to read each one of these slides, but there's a significant amount of data that shows that the value of the immigrant entrepreneurial efforts are quite significant within the United States. So there's that background already on the table. Next slide. We also do internally and within our communities, we do a need and interest survey in addition to those very targeted pathways that we all live within. As far as interest, we also do a more extensive career inventory. Entrepreneurship is part of that, if folks have an interest in that. So we collected that data, and in addition to anecdotal data, that all flowed up through our student success coaches or navigators, who indicated that there definitely is a need for this type of program within our community and within our service populations. We were uniquely, I think, adult education, we're housed within continuing education, which also under that umbrella lives our small business development center or business development center, as well as a partnership with a non-for-profit business incubator accelerator. So we felt we were uniquely, with these partners, uniquely positioned to develop and offer a very viable entrepreneurship program to our ELA students. There was a credit certificate, and there is a credit certificate here at the college that is in existence. It's 12 or 13 credits, but we wanted the experience to be immediately actionable. We wanted an application for our folks that would upon completion and throughout the duration would help them either scale up an existing enterprise they had or launch immediately upon completion. So that was the primary reason we didn't go with the credit certificate route. And again, I mentioned the two partners that we had lined up and had already had a relationship with. It all seemed to gel to move us towards a development of a model too. And then we also, as far as funding is concerned for the development, there was a grants opportunity that came along just at the right time, the Innovation Bridge and Transitions Grant. So we use that to pay for the development and launch as a pilot for this program. Next slide. As I mentioned, our two primary partners were the College of DuPage Small Business Development Center, which is a component of the Business Development Center, and Innovation DuPage, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail about each of these entities and how they collaborated with us. Next slide. So our SBDC, or Small Business Development Center, is a component of the Business Development Center here at the college and serves our college district. While there are three main components of this, there's a Small Business Development Center, the PTAC, or Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and International Trade Center. We primarily used the existing course framework from the Small Business Development Center, modified that a bit in partnership with what we saw as our needs. But the great thing about this is, outside of the experience and the existing curriculum, we were allowed to pull faculty from our trainers from each of these three areas that had expertise in particular topics, which I will cover the topical outline as well. But a whole host of experience was brought to the table, not only in theory, but also in application, because these folks not only do the training, but they also are entrepreneurs themselves. In addition, we contracted with some external folks that came in to teach particular content areas that had their own businesses and had expertise in particular areas. Next slide. A little bit of the activity. So as far as some of the successes for our Small Business Development Center, PTAC, and International Trade Center, they have a host of experience and positive outcomes, economic development outcomes on an annual basis that are pretty amazing. I'm not going to go through all of them here, but needless to say, their program is something that's already borne out as far as its success, and they have a history of success that through that lens we applied that to this particular model. Next slide. Innovation DuPage is a business incubator accelerator. So essentially, if you have a business and you want to scale up and you need assistance with that, or launching a business, this is a non-for-profit that's within our community college district. They are a partner with College of DuPage. College of DuPage is one of the the entities that help launch, develop, create, and launch Innovation DuPage in partnership with the Village of Glen Ellen, where our main campus is hosted. So this is like I said, nonprofit venture, helps startups and small businesses, provides them resources and opportunities to grow. They have a network of educational and business partners that bring resources to the table and assist those that are members of Innovation DuPage. And I listed a couple of them here: Argonne National Labs, Fermilab, and then several of our educational partners in our district are members. And there's a whole host of others that I didn't list, private business and enterprise. So they provide not only the educational supports and mentoring, they also provide the space. So they provide office space, technology resources, marketing resources, and a small maker space within the facility. But I think the primary benefit of this is to have the experienced trainers and mentors that work with folks that are members of this on a daily basis to, again, scale up and make their successful. Next slide. So essentially our model was we were going to target high, intermediate, and advanced ELA students. As I mentioned already, we utilize the existing curriculum, training curriculum that the Small Business Development Center had in place and had already proven successful by the number of businesses that were launched, loans that were obtained, et cetera. So we didn't want to reinvent anything. We used their curriculum and customized it based on our needs. Certainly played with the pacing a bit, added some, where we felt our students would need additional supports, added some components to their existing curriculum. So all of our members, all of our cohort, anyone that went through this program, at the end of the program, they automatically received a 1-year membership at Innovation DuPage. So they can access the mentorship from existing businesses that I had already mentioned, some of our partners. They get free classes and training on very specific targeted content to assist with a startup and scale up of a business. And they also had access to the office space, meeting space, technology, resources, marketing assistance, those types of things. So that was kind of a nice carrot at the end of this, where this was an offer to any of our completers. We also housed the actual instruction within Innovation DuPage, so that all of our cohort could get comfortable with the space and also interface with the Innovation DuPage employees and mentors, and kind of get a flavor of what to expect once they got the membership post program. Next slide. It is a fairly traditional IET model that we use. So you can see, and the modules or concepts that I've listed here are very generic. And on one of the next slides, it'll break down all of the more specific content areas that we covered. But it is a very traditional design based off of the Model 1 IET. There's a content area, there's a resource support class that all the students attend. And in addition to that, they enroll in an ELA contextualized high, intermediate, or advanced course to further support language acquisition in the context of entrepreneurship. So next slide. We went back and forth on the length of time that we were going to run this, but it turned out to be a 20-week course. So these are all of these very specific topics that we covered. And at the end of the course, all the students had a very formal approved business plan in place, as well as a marketing plan and resources to, again, scale up or launch. And then, again, moving into that membership for further mentorship and supports through Innovation DuPage. Next slide. We had 9 students in our initial cohort. They all had a very, with the exception of one area, they all had diverse business ideas: photography, makeup, jewelry, bakery, a travel agency. 2 folks wanted to launch their own restaurant. pet groomer, and in senior home care. And so very, very diverse business goals. But again, the content of the course would be able to address all the needs of a startup for each of those areas. I already mentioned that all of our classes were held at Innovation DuPage. So next slide. Some of our challenges, pandemic hit right, I would say about a third way through. So we did have to shift all of our instruction to at a distance learning, and it was fairly seamless, which was a pleasant surprise. We did not lose, I think in the end, seven out of the 9 completed out of the cohort completed the program. But as far as retention was concerned, it really didn't affect retention or participation. It did delay the physical access to the Innovation DuPage space. So there was a slight delay there. Many of the businesses that were chosen that I'd gone through on the list were service industry focused. And we all know what happened to the service industries when the pandemic hit. Many of them basically came to a halt. So again, a delay there as far as, maybe not the best time to start up a service industry focused new business. But so again, that was a challenge. We did plan on having an in-person makers market that they could participate in. So if they had a product that they were developing, so jewelry, bakery, if they had something that they could produce and kind of show off in a makers market, that was also delayed a full year because that was an in-person. And then again, it delayed the full, obviously these things delayed the full realization of our program outcomes or intentional program outcomes in the timeline that we had envisioned. So next slide. So these are the folks receiving their certificate after the end of the program. This is the entranceway to Innovation DuPage. It's a very cool space. I could provide the web address for it if you want to dig in a little further about what they provide and what the space looks like. And, but here's a picture of our cohort for our completers. And again, that's in the Innovation DuPage entranceway. Next slide. These are some of the quotes from participants, and I'm not going to read them all, but yeah, for those that completed, there was a real sense of accomplishment, success, and confidence in the ability to launch a business, or if they had a business already going, to scale that up, and also the comfort in utilizing the resources at the Innovation DuPage Business Accelerator Incubator. So had a lot of positive feedback post-program, and some of those comments I inserted here. So next slide. So 7 students completed. They all, like I said, they all had a formal actionable business plan. 2 of the businesses actually had family still in their native country, and they were able to expand their current business in the United States to their home country. So that was very cool. They were able to establish a web presence based on the training and the resources that provided for marketing and sales, scale up. And then again, the kind of carrot at the end of this journey for them was the utilization of Innovation DuPage. So once the space opened up again, they were able to go back in and utilize those resources and mentorship. And there's one person in particular that almost lives at Innovation DuPage now, and their business is off the charts, but they receive so much help from the folks there and utilize the resources almost on a daily basis. So it's been a real kind of a gem partnership for our students. So next slide. So some of our unexpected successes, based on our experience, some of our other partners had heard about what we were doing. So one of our school districts, we're doing a combination adult and it's a middle school. So the 8th grade entrepreneurial club, as well as parents from the school district, are both participating in kind of a dual track entrepreneurial effort. So we have some of our trainers from Innovation DuPage are going into the middle school and helping 8th graders with pretty much a pitch contest kind of concept. And at the same time, on a dual track, parents are enrolling in this entrepreneurial program for small business startup. So that was kind of cool. We got some funding from the school district for that. The partnership with the Small Business Development Center won the Roger Lumen Program Excellence Award, and that's for small business development centers. So the partnership was received the Outstanding Innovative Best Practice Program Award for an SBD center. So that was kind of a nice post-program win for the SBDC, who provided a lot of time and expertise in this. So it was very cool outcome there. One of the ones I didn't put up here either is, looking at Model 2 programs and determining need for them. We started taking a look. Typically, our research and analytics department that helps us look at our data and the trajectory of our students as they leave our programs, where they go within the post-secondary world, typically focuses on credit. There's very little focus or emphasis on non-credit program enrollment or successes or completion. So we do have quite a number of programs that offer industry recognized credentials, farm tech, vet tech, those types of programming. So the approach to Model 2 non-credit gave us the opportunity to kind of dig into the data to see where our students were going within these programs and trying to capture, they were going, in many cases, they were going into these programs unintentionally. We were not providing a pathway to those programs. Our typical focus is to get people on a pathway to post-secondary education. But we discovered, looking at the data when we were looking at Model 2 potential, we have quite a number of students that are going through these short-term credit program or non-credit programs that end up with a job and an industry recognized credential. So we are now, that kind of looking through that data, we're now more intentional about how we are approaching some of those programs and the supports. Okay, and I see I've talked too long. I apologize. So again, any questions you have, I could certainly follow up at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. And there is a question for you in the chat, if you could take a look for that, but we'll move on to Mary.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks, Sarah. My name is Mary Jarjour, and I am the program manager for college and career pathways at Heartland Human Care Services. And I'm here today to talk to you about our Model 2 and how a Model 2 might look in a non-community college setting. Next slide, please. So as mentioned, we're not a college, we're a social services organization. Specifically our division is called Refugee and Immigrant Community Services, RICS for short. RICS offers a range of services. One of the divisions is our adult ed division. So we offer several levels of ESL. We also offer a couple levels of citizenship and of course, our IET program. Our IET is divided into 3 focus areas or tracks, as we sometimes call them, and each student chooses one of the tracks. Those 3 are medical interpreting, child daycare, and administrative technology. Next slide, please. So specifically, a little bit about our offering. First off, it is 100% remote. So we use a variety of platforms, including Zoom. Our medical interpreting certification program is for students who are very fluent in 2 or more languages. And it leads to an industry recognized credential that is recognized by the International Medical Interpreters Association In this focus area, students are trained to interpret in a variety of medical settings. So it could be a doctor's office type setting, but it could also be a mental health setting, dental health setting, things of that nature. Language combinations that are really common among our IET students in medical interpreting are English plus French, or English and Spanish, English and Russian, or English and Ukrainian. So this job leads to employment as a freelance medical interpreter. Currently, the hourly wage for medical interpreters in our area here in Chicago is $24 an hour. So we also have our child, Sarah, can we go back just to the other slide? Thank you. We have our child daycare certificate. So this is a basic early childhood ed certificate, also industry recognized, that leads to a variety of outcomes for our students after graduation. They can open their own home daycare. They can work at entry-level jobs at daycare centers, and they can also choose to nanny or be a private babysitter for a family with this qualification. Finally, administrative technology. This is a Microsoft 365 certificate, and students often use this to work in a variety of admin roles, for example, at local businesses within their community, like insurance agencies, or they could use this certificate to launch their own business or support a family member in their small business. Next slide, please. We chose those focus areas based on job market research, but also based on what our upper level ESL students were telling us they wanted. So who are those students? We serve refugees. We are a refugee resettlement agency, Heartland Human Care Services. We also serve immigrants and asylees from a wide range of countries, including Afghanistan, Central African Republic, Ukraine, and all over Latin America, just to name a few. Where do we recruit our students from for our IET? We do a lot of advertising in our upper level and intermediate level ESL courses. That's where we do a lot of student surveys. We also use social media for advertising, specifically Facebook. We place ads in print media. So for example, in the newspapers, in the communities that our students come from. And also because Heartland has social services programs, we have an internal listserv that allows us to communicate to our social services non-adult adult ed colleagues about our offering, and then they can promote as appropriate within their social services programming. That might include our programs that serve survivors of human trafficking, for example, or homeless youth. And we think that another feature of our IET that works to attract students is that we offer wraparound social services support. So for example, our IET students can meet with a case manager who can help connect them to resources in the medical or legal areas. We can also connect to food banks. We can help them sign up for public benefits if they are eligible, or Illinois Action for Children. We have an employment specialist that can meet with students after graduation to help them look for jobs. And we also, last but not least, are really fortunate to have a large and very robust volunteer tutoring team. Our students qualify for the IET if they score a 572 or above on the TABE. Next slide, please. So how are we doing the 3 components of a Model 2 IET? Well, this is what our setup looks like. We have, of course, our contextualized instruction that's provided by a standards proficient ESL teacher, and it's supported with a TABE Academy software. This is kind of a shameless plug for the Essential Ed vendor that we've been working with for about 2 years now. Their product, TABE Academy, is a subscription that each one of our IET students receives. And then our students also meet with volunteers for one-on-one or small group tutoring within the contextualized instruction component. We also offer, of course, our workforce prep. For us, that's done by our transitions specialist, and it's supported with a curriculum called Career Foundations. So shout out to Women Employed, which is an organization that we partner with. They write Career Foundations, which is a digital career exploration and soft skills curriculum. Our students work on that with our transition specialist, and we provide small group coaching and a variety of workshops like resume workshops, virtual job panels, and mock job interviews. And then, of course, for our workforce training, we work with instructors at our private sector partners that provide that specific workforce training in one of those 3 focus areas. For medical interpreting, we work with a company called Alta Languages and their trainers. Child daycare certification is taken care of by US Career Institute. And then Microsoft 365, we teach using the online modules from Microsoft, and we're also super fortunate to have a volunteer on our team who's also a Microsoft employee who can kind of help us and the students connect the dots there. Next slide, please. So we've been running this model now for about 3 years. And here are some of the benefits and the challenges that we have observed. The benefits are, first off, that running a Model 2 allows us to be strengths-based. And how exactly? Well, many of our students, we noticed, come to us with college credit or even college degrees from outside of the United States. And so, of course, they're balancing lots of different responsibilities. And what they were telling us when we were surveying was, you know, I don't necessarily need to enroll at a college in order to kind of boost my resumes. I've got some skills and even some credits already. I would love to do a certificate program that I can, you know, complete in 3 to 6 months. That will help me be successful and reach my goals. So they have a lot of strengths that they bring to the program. And this is just kind of like a capstone for them, right? It fills in the gaps that they have, but it builds on what they've already got going for them. Also, because we're not part of a larger educational institution, we can be relatively agile in how we schedule and how we set up our services for our students. So we can kind of respond, or we can at least try to respond quickly to the needs of the environment as well as our students. So how do we do that? Well, for example, we have a morning session and an evening session of our IET, right? And so students are asked to choose either one, but if coming, you know, being online classes in the morning is just not working anymore for some reason, then they can seamlessly switch to the evening session instead, if that works better for them. We also have a really streamlined intake process. And we reserve the afternoons for meeting with tutors or getting job counseling from a transition specialist, but we let the student decide what time of day, and how much of that service they would like to receive. We make large blocks of time available that permits sort of, convenient and flexible scheduling for our students. As far as challenges, well, certainly there have been the ones related to the pandemic that that we all are familiar with, and Dan touched on, just now, like some delays in implementation of certain components certainly were happening, particularly in the early phases of the pandemic. In addition to that, not being embedded in a larger educational institution means that the teaching team and I are our own help desk for IT issues. So for example, we were able to purchase a device lending library with some ICCB funding that was put out there for that purpose. And it's been awesome because our students love being able to borrow a laptop. All of their coursework can be done on a phone, but we know that that's not ideal. So they love being able to borrow a laptop, but if updates are needed or it's like slow for some reason, even though it's a new device, it's our teaching team that kind of troubleshoots those tech issues. And, similarly, we're sort of on our own as far as marketing is concerned. We also noticed that, when you're working with private sector partners and they're on your teaching team, that's got a lot of advantages, but they also on their end are working with tons of other clients and organizations. So we have to just make sure that our communication with them is really streamlined so that, we can schedule services with them that are, packaged in a way and that happen at a time that's convenient for both parties, not just one. I'll note before we move on from this slide that what's not been a challenge for the most part is online learning. As mentioned, of course, the early phases of the pandemic brought some specific challenges with it. But as we sort of moved into fall of 2020, and ever since then, our students are telling us they actually like learning online. It breaks down some transportation and childcare barriers for them. Next slide, please. So just a quick note about team teaching. We see our team teaching team as being, of course, our adult ed instructor and our transition specialist, but also all of the volunteers that are supporting this program and really making it great. And in the final moment that I have, if I can share really quickly, we're very excited about the mentoring program for our IET students that we're launching. Each student will be able to meet with a volunteer for one-on-one career guidance from an industry professional that works in the field that the student wants to work in. And that mentor is going to share all kinds of available like networking opportunities in order to help that IET graduate kind of get their foot in the door. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to hearing your questions.
All right, thank you so much, Mary. As I put in the chat, I love to hear that mentoring. I can't wait to hear more about that. So now we're going to move on to our third and final presentation from College of Lake County and Dr. Arlene Santos George.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. And some of you might already have also attended my session yesterday, so you might not be surprised by that there might be some repeat slides here. Anyway, next slide, please. So just to give you like some brief overview of what I'm going to be talking about, I'll be giving you a very quick overview of our CLC and adult education program. I'm also going to talk about the importance of making sure that we recognize that Bridge and ICAPS programs are part of career pathways. And then I'm going to give you some rundown of our ICAPS Model 2 programs. We have 3, but I think Sarah said that we should emphasize entrepreneurship, so I'll do that. And then just some successes and challenges and what's next. Next slide, please. So just a brief overview of CLC. We are located at the northeast portion of Illinois. There are 2 other providers. of adult education in that area. We have about 3,000 students before COVID hit us, approximately 3,000 every year. And we have 3 campuses, and they all have strong, equally strong enrollments. Our ESL program is the predominant program in adult education. 73% of our students are in ESL and 27% in ABE-ASE. Our student population is mostly working age from 24 to 60. And then our ethnicity is predominantly Hispanic. Next slide, please. So in adult education, I always have to remind our staff, our faculty, our students, and also the college itself that we are part of career pathways. And I just have the privilege of also being the Perkins administrator. So I always make sure that we are hooked up with all the academic CTE programs. So career pathways, as you know, is a very important part of WIOA as well as Perkins. And its purpose is actually to promote a healthy workforce and labor market so that we will satisfy the employer needs. It does this by having a really good structure of well-connected and transparent education, training, credentials, and support services that actually is not just within the post-secondary level, but it actually also involves the high schools as well as adult education, as well as the non-credit side through workforce preparation or workforce and professional development institutes and providers. The good thing about career pathways are there are multiple entry and exit points. And so, for example, for adult education, we all know that we can actually have an entry point by having bridge to careers programs within adult education. And from there, they can actually enter post-secondary through ICAPS. And then within ICAPS, there's also multiple entry and exit points because you have the stackable certificates. So what a wonderful world we live in adult education. Next slide, please. So as part of our career pathways, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 7 bridges or pre-bridges for career pathways. And as you can see, those with asterisks includes pathways to non-credit ICAPS, and those are in healthcare, manufacturing, and entrepreneurship. Next slide. So here are our approved ICAPS programs. So we have these in the career clusters of healthcare, transportation, distribution, and logistics and manufacturing, business and professional services, and computer information technology and criminal justice. In healthcare, we have 3 credits and we have 1 non-credit, which is personal care aid. In TDL and manufacturing, we have 5 credit and 1 non-credit, which is in Forklift Technician. And then in business and professional services, we have 2 credit and 1 non-credit in entrepreneurship, and then 2 credit programs in computer information technology and 1 certificate in the criminal justice department. Next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. There's a lot of things that you've already learned from my colleagues here from the community college side and also from a nonprofit side. So why did we choose entrepreneurship as our non-credit, especially in a pandemic area, in a pandemic time? So one of the reasons is there's an overwhelming demand from our students to really help them, get started in business as well as enhance their business or expand their business. So we've been getting all of these anecdotal feedback from our students over the years. Plus also we have every semester a goal form which students fill out within the first 3 weeks of classes. And then we analyze that data. And of course, we see that there's a lot of them who wants to start their business or expand their business. We also have the really good opportunity provided by the CLC Workforce and Professional Development Institute. They were the ones who actually approached us. Hey, Arlene, do you guys have any students interested in, starting a business? Because we do have, a program for that. Word spreads around at the college that, hey, Arlene can actually really help you with enrollment. And so they approach us. And like I said, it's during the pandemic, but it actually really started out really nicely because they have an online modality for this program. So just to make everybody understand, everything here is virtual. The bridge to entrepreneurship, which is actually the very first step in the ICAPS in entrepreneurship. So in spring 2021, the first 8 weeks was BRGA 25, which is Bridge to Entrepreneurship. It meets once a week in the evening. According to ICCB, it was actually approved for like 3 credit hours with 2 hours every week. But of course, you know, during the pandemic, we just said we're just going to offer it once a week in the evenings. They use Canvas as the learning management system. And then it was all via Zoom. And as I said, it's a prerequisite for ICAPS. The way that they develop the bridge to entrepreneurship is basically working backwards from what the ICAPS is going to offer. And so what they did was they actually did a reverse engineering of the curriculum to build the bridge to entrepreneurship. And then in the second 8 weeks of spring 2021, we offered the ICAPS in Entrepreneurship PGOT 45, and it was offered in collaboration with the Workforce Professional Development Institute. It's actually an entrepreneurship boot camp. And what they did was they meet once a week, and the first hour is with the support class, so they can actually go through the materials that the students have learned and also have been doing in a self-paced manner using the Ed2Go platform. So I'll show you a little bit about the Ed2Go platform in a little while. But the first hour is with the adult education support class. And like I said, the adult education teacher goes through, you know, everything, the lessons, the topics that the student have been assigned to go through for the self-paced Ed2Go course. And then the second hour is the content class itself, but they don't go to Ed2Go on the content class. They actually have speakers. So every week they have a speaker representing different types of businesses, and they talk about, you know, like how they started, their successes, their challenges, financing, you know, some motivational aspects so that the students can actually really get pumped up about and not be afraid of like starting their own business. And like I said, it's Ed2Go platform. The course fee itself is $150. This entrepreneurship initiative was actually funded the same way that Dan DC's program at COD was funded, and that is through the Innovation Bridge and Transition Grant. And then after that, in summer of 2021, we actually gave the students, after they completed, you know, they got their certificate of completion, we actually also gave them additional training credits through the WPDI, and it's micro-learning 365-day access, which is also from Ed2Go. So basically the student had, you know, we gave them money so that they can actually still take courses, and these courses they can access at any time, and it will expire within 1 year. 17 students graduated, so we were really, really happy with the first cohort. So happy that we actually had an ICAPS recognition celebration in the summer, including those 17 students. We have about 50 to 60 students who attended for all the other ICAPS programs that we had. And then on top of that, we also provided the students with assistance from the CLC Small Business Development Center, which is part of the Workforce Professional Development Institute, in terms of like just getting them started with their business or enhancing their own businesses. So they actually get to sit down with a small business development consultant in our CLC. And then we are planning to actually do a follow-up with the students this fall. We will be sending them a survey and trying to find out how they're doing. So we're hoping to hear good news from them. Next slide, please. So this is the College of Lake County Workforce and Professional Development Institute. they contract with Ed2Go. So you can see that CLC is up, you know, our logo is here, but actually the platform and the learning platform is actually provided by Ed2Go. This is where the students actually have to log in every day, you know, outside of their actual content class and outside of their adult education support class. They actually have to be here, you know, every day at their own pace, but they do have assignments every week. And then they learn everything about, you know, how to start your own business, including, you know, like financing, or marketing and recruitment, or personnel management and things like that. So everything is here. It's really a good learning, e-learning platform. And I put here the hyperlink just in case people are interested in also maybe contracting with them if they are interested in starting an ICAPS Model 2 in entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. And so with the bridge and the ICAPS model, these are the things, these are the topics that they learned in terms of the curriculum. So key characteristics of successful entrepreneurs, and that's where we actually brought in, you know, speakers every week, telling their stories, telling their, you know, like tax rules, especially. We want to make sure that students are also knowledgeable about tax rules besides just, you know, having fun with starting their own business, and whether it's creative or not, but tax rules is very important. Goals, targeting, you know, like what are their sales, and then how do they market, how do they sell, and then most importantly, creating a business plan. And then in actuality, at the very end, you know, in the summer, they actually were able to do a business plan with our SBDC. Next slide. So here's the outcome. So we started with 18 students in the bridge to entrepreneurship, and then 17 of them eventually went to the second 8 weeks for the ICAPS, and 17 actually completed. So we're very happy that we had almost 100% completion rate from the 18 that we started. Because of the success, we plan to offer this in spring 2022 again. Next slide. Here are the other Model 2 programs that we offer. We have the Certified Forklift Technician, and also this is part of the IBT grant. We actually offer this by using the credentialing system and the curriculum and the e-learning platform of the Manufacturing Skills Standards Council. The course is actually all virtual except for one meeting in the beginning wherein the content instructor as well as the adult education instructor are there to explain everything about the program. And it's once a week at 2 hours to review the work of students in the MSSE e-learning modules. And that is actually taken care of by the adult ed support instructor, 1 hour a week, but everything else is virtual. They just go online in this MSSC e-learning platform, and they must complete 55 hours of that. The instructor is an authorized CFT e-learning instructor, and we were able to actually had some challenges there, but they were still able to get an instructor for that. Now, after they complete the e-learning, they were supposed to go have a hands-on training and assessment, which is part of actually completing the certification and the credentialing itself. However, we faced a barrier in that because of COVID-19. The employer was not able to accommodate the students that we had. There were 6 students in this cohort, and again, the we still have not been able to find an employer to actually open its doors for the hands-on training and assessment so that they can actually get the credential itself after they pass you know, a practical assessment wherein they have to show that they have mastered the competencies for repairing, maintenance, and servicing forklift vehicles. And then the last one that we have is a personal care aid, which is Vocational Allied Health 12. We offered it in spring 2019 and spring 2020. It usually is conducted over 4 Saturdays, total of 7 hours. The last 2 hours are the adult education support class. We have internships and tuitions available from the Job Center of Lake County, and that the course fee is $299, which is a little bit exorbitant. We have had 22 students for this, and we did not offer it in spring 2021 because the WPDI did not offer it. And next slide, I'm almost done. So successes, I know we only have like 3 minutes, so I'm just going to go through this. The success is due to like what I would call a really strong structure to support the students in terms of like recruitment and retention and onboarding, and also in team teaching. And everything here is in the slides. So if you just have a moment after this session, please read that. And then the challenges is what I want to focus on. Next slide. So the challenges of a Model 2 is the financial cost to students. $1,500 for the forklift technician and $299 for the personal care aid. So those are really very, very strong factors in terms of like, you know, will you have student participation in these Model 2 programs? The entrepreneurship is a really beacon of hope because it only costs $150 for that. So that is a really good program for our students. Recruitment for the PCA and the CFT, which of course are, like I said, exorbitantly expensive. You know, it's very difficult, particularly for undocumented students, because even if training dollars are available from the Job Center of Lake County, those are really only available for those with Social Security numbers. And then one of the challenges was, of course, the impacts on internships and hands-on training and credentialing because of COVID-19. So there's sort of like, for us, we don't know what's going to happen with these 2 programs, because if there's no internships and there's no hands-on training and credentialing, then, you know, we would, specifically for the CFT, the Certified Forklift Training, they will not be able to get their certification. And then employer engagement is also very, very important and very challenging. And like I have explained, particularly with the CFT program. And then the other challenge that we have is the availability of Workforce and Professional Development Institute instructors. So even if we work with WPDI, sometimes they have difficulty with instructors because, you know, a lot of them are teaching full-time, part-time, and sometimes the program is really still relatively new. So like, for example, the Certified Forklift Technician. So basically, I would say I would not recommend the Certified Forklift Technician, but I would recommend pursuing the entrepreneurship and the PCA. And that is it for me. I hope I did not speak so fast.
Thank you, Arlene, and thank you to all 3 of our presenters. We appreciate it. I put in the chat also, save the date for November 2nd and 3rd, the Transitions Academy. So the people who just spoke don't know yet, but we're going to ask them to also speak there as well. So surprise, nothing like asking, you know, putting you right on the spot, but hopefully they'll be able to join us because they're doing some great things. So we have just about 1 minute. So Heather, do you want to take us through our final slides?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to thank Arlene, Dan, and Mary. Such wonderful amount of information, which I understand why you had to speak so fast. There's so much to provide for this. So thank you again for presenting your ICAPS Model 2, the examples from working programs. Thank you to everyone for attending this 2021 Forum of Excellence session. Please be sure to provide feedback on the session by clicking the Rate Session button on the Whova app agenda. We also would like to take this time to direct you to our on-demand sessions, which can access at any time during or after the conference. You can access these by locating the Resource tab on your Whova app and then clicking On Demand. Feel free to follow us on social media platforms as well for all things forum, including engagement and giveaways. Use hashtag Forum for Excellence 2021 and also hashtag excellence for equity. I'll post those in the chat.
All right, and finally, thank you to our exhibitors. And it's time to go. Our next session will be at 10:30. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our presenters. And we'll see you at 10:30 at the next session or at the closing session later today.